Now, electric vehicle sales account for less than 1% of the Canadian market, so not many people are buying electric cars, but it is growing. And that means that the majority of people have never driven an electric car, maybe even yourself. So we have the BMW i3 back on the show. We did review it when it first came out. Go to the website, drivingtelevision.com, to watch that. So we got it back so we could talk about what it's like to drive an electric car. Let's go for a spin. All right, let's talk about how an electric car differs from a gasoline car. The first thing you notice is how quiet it is. There's no motor, there's no exhaust, and that really limits the amount of noise that comes into the cabin. All you have is tire noise on the road and wind noise, which makes the car very quiet and comfortable. You can enjoy your tunes and conversation in the car, no problem at all. Also, because the engine of a regular gasoline car is one of the heavier parts, they're always trying to get it as low into the car as they can to improve handling. Well, what you have in place of that with an electric car is a battery pack, usually placed along the floor of the vehicle, which makes the electric pack the lowest and heaviest part of the car. That keeps the center of gravity really quite low, and most electric cars handle remarkably well. This BMW i3, after getting in it after the initial review a year ago, I'm pleasantly surprised by how much fun it is to drive. Now, the other part about an electric motor versus a gasoline engine is torque. Torque comes on at 0 RPM. That's maximum torque at 0 RPM. You get a lot of pace very, very quickly. There's no gears either. It's a direct drive. The power goes to the electric motor and turns, and you don't have any sensation of the gears changing. Then there's the braking. I left my foot off the accelerator and the regenerative braking starts to brake the car, and in this BMW i3 and others like the Tesla, it'll brake the car all the way down to 0 kilometers an hour. And you learn to drive the vehicle using the throttle for acceleration and for braking, and you rarely, if ever, touch the actual brake pedal. That means you're not using the brakes. And that's the other thing about an electric car is maintenance. You don't have the gasoline engine, you don't have to change the oil, the coolant, the transmission isn't going to fall out. So maintenance is very, very low on an electric car. Well, are there any negatives? Well, there's one big one, and that's cost. And all of the electric car manufacturers, or all the mainstream manufacturers that make electric cars, are trying to produce cars that don't cost that much. And that's a real problem because the batteries are expensive. That's the most expensive part of an electric car. So if they can get the cost of the batteries down and produce cars that are much more mainstream in terms of cost, then they'll probably sell more. And the other main issue for many people is range. We're starting to see cars now with up to 300 kilometers of range. So I think as that gets perfected, we're going to start to see more and more people adopting electric cars if they can get the price down. Now back to the i3. The one thing about this BMW i3 coming in roughly around $45,000 in Canada is it actually is, if you're thinking about a premium brand, pretty good value. You get a car that has great handling, very unique looks. It has the capability to put in a range extender, which means they put a very small gasoline engine on board to help extend the range if you start to run out of electricity. It's got a very modern and funky cabin, and as I mentioned off the beginning, getting back into it again after a year, it reminds me oh so much of what a great little machine it is. The power and the torque are just so much fun. It's a wonderful little machine.